Welcome to MySafetyTrainingOnline.com presents Safe Rigging Practices. What you will learn? We'll cover job site considerations and rigging, basic sling operating practices, rigging selection, user responsibilities. We'll talk about definitions and safety factors, and wire rope considerations. So let's get started. Section 1, Safe Rigging Practices and Job Site Considerations. The handling, setting, and erection of materials and equipment is a hazardous occupation. Each operation presents its own peculiar problems, and no two jobs are alike. With proper consideration taken, each job can be performed free of bodily harm to the employee and without damage to the equipment. The person authorized and qualified to do rigging must always pay close attention to the details. One careless moment or act can result in serious injury or death and tremendous property damage. Proper rigging is an art and should never be left to the inexperienced. If you don't know how to do it properly, then don't attempt it. Section 2, Rigging Selection and Safe Rigging. Persons performing rigging tasks usually already have two strikes against them when they start. Number 1, unfavorable job conditions. And number 2 is a job schedule to meet. Rarely does the average worker on a construction site get the opportunity to actually pick the rigging. It is normally purchased by a supervisor, the purchasing department, or is sent from another project. This in itself can create serious problems. The rigging capacity and the material to be lifted must match. Using too small capacity rigging or components is just asking for an accident to happen. Who is responsible, competent, and qualified for the rigging? Are there communications established? Is the equipment in acceptable condition? Is it the appropriate type for the job? Is there proper identification of the equipment? Has been properly inspected? Are the working load limits adequate? What is the weight of the load? Where is the center of gravity? Where is the sling angle? Will there be side loading? What is the capacity of the gear? Will the load be under control? Is the tag line available? Is there any possibility of fouling? Is it clear of personnel? These are all questions that need to be answered. Section 3, User Responsibilities and Safe Rigging. User responsibilities and safe rigging involve a warning. Can fail if damaged, misused, or overloaded. Inspect before use. Use only if trained. Observe the rated capacity, because death or injury can occur if improper use or maintenance. Here we can see the user's responsibilities to weigh the crane operator, the rigging, the load, the hitch, and the lifting device. Utilize appropriate rigging gear suitable for overhead lifting. Utilize the rigging gear within the industry standards and the manufacturer's recommendations. Conduct regular inspections and maintenance of the rigging gear. Whenever any sling is used, the following practices shall be observed. Slings that are damaged or defective shall not be used. Slings shall not be shortened with knots or bolts or other makeshift devices. Basic sling operating practices are detailed in the American National Standard Institute B30.9. Slings shall be securely attached to the load. Sling legs shall not be kinked. Slings shall not be loaded in excess of their rated capacities, and slings will be used in a basket hitch shall have a load balanced to prevent slippage. Slings shall be padded and protected from the sharp edges of their loads. Suspended loads shall be kept free of obstacles. All employees shall be kept clear of the loads about to be lifted and of suspended loads. Hands or fingers shall not be placed between the sling and its load while the sling is being tightened around the load. Shock loading is prohibited. A sling shall not be pulled from under a load when the load is resting on the sling. Each day before being used, the sling and all fasteners and attachments shall be inspected for damage and defects by a competent person designated by the employer. Additional inspections shall be performed during sling use as often as necessary for safety. Replacement. Severe localized abrasion or scraping. 10 randomly distributed broken wires in one rope lay, or 5 broken wires in one rope strand in one rope lay. Evidence of heat damage. Cut with a torch. Replacement times. When you see kinking, crushing, bird caging, or any damage resulting in a distortion of the rope structure. Damaged, distorted, or field welded hooks. Damaged or worn end attachments. If in doubt, don't use it. Section 4. Definitions in rigging safety. Balanced. A load equally distributed on each side of the point of support. Breakthrough strength. The approximate point when under a maximum load, the load handling device fails. Bridle sling. A sling composed of multiple legs gathered in a fitting that goes over the lifting hook. Competent person. Selected or assigned by the employer as being qualified to perform a specific job. Factor of safety. Ratio of braking strength to the force to be applied. Hitch basket. Loading with the sling passed under the load and both ends on the hook or a single master link. Hitch choker. Loading with a sling passed through one eye and suspended by the other. Hitch vertical. Loading with the load suspended vertically on a single part or leg of a sling. Master link. A steel link or ring used to support all legs of a chain or wire rope sling. Mousing. Lashing between the neck and the tip of the hook to prevent the load coming off. Rated capacity. The maximum allowable working load. Rigging. The connecting of a load to a source of power so that it can be lifted and moved safely and predictably. Safe working load. The maximum allowable working load established by the manufacturer. Sheave. A wheel with a grooved circumstance over which the rope is bent. Wire rope. It consists of many individual wires laid into a number of strands which are in turn laid around a center core. To guard against failure of a wire rope in service, the actual load on the rope should only be a fraction of the braking strength. The safety factor includes the reduced capacity of the rope. Below it's stated breaking strength due to wear, fatigue, corrosion, abuse, and variations in size and quality. Section 5. Wire rope and safe rigging practices. In this chart we can see the benefit of fewer outside wires per strand versus the benefit of more outside wires per strand. On the one on the left you can see abrasion resistance is higher, whereas the other one has fatigue resistance higher. Here's a wire rope capacities chart showing the wire rope size, the Crosby carbon shackle minimum, the vertical, the choker, the 60-degree angle, and the 45-degree angle. Here's a chart which shows that sling capacity decreases as the angle increases. A sling capable of lifting 1,000 pounds in a 30-degree vertical basket hitch can only lift 866 pounds at a 30-degree angle, 707 pounds at a 45-degree angle, and 500 pounds at a 60-degree angle. Here's a chart showing the wire rope sling capacities. Take a few minutes to examine the rope size, eye size, recommended minimum length, straight pull, choker, vertical, and basket hitches. Here's a chart showing the wire rope sling choker adjustment, where the choker angle is 120 to 180 and the maximum capacity adjustment is 100%, versus the 0 to 29 category, the capacity adjustment is 49%. Here we have a chart depicting the various types of wire rope slings. Take a minute to examine them and see which slings or sling you are using. Here we have depicted two types of synthetic slings, the vertical hitch sling and the choker hitch sling. Sling capacity varies from manufacturer to manufacturer with no set standard like wire rope has. The user must look at individual sling capacity tags to determine the safe lifting capacity of that sling. If the tag is not readable or is missing, don't use it. Inspect the sling before each day's use as often as necessary during the day to ensure safety of the sling. Sharp edges can slice the sling in two without warning as the load is tensioned. Use softeners or padding on corners. My fellow Americans, let's talk about chain slings now and how my administration failed to use them correctly. And thank you for not going to sleep during my presentation. Only grade 8 or better alloy chain can be used for overhead lifting purposes. All chain is not rated the same. Chain must have a capacity tag attached to it. Chains must be inspected daily before use and as often as necessary during use to assure safety. Chains will withstand more rough handling and abuse, but a chain with the same rated lifting capacity of wire rope will be much larger in diameter and heavier in weight. It is the rigger's responsibility to do the inspections. Chain slings, types used on job sites. Take a minute to examine all these types of chain slings and see which one or ones you are using. Section 6. Safe rigging practices and job site examples. Rigging protection from cutting or slipping. Softeners, padding, and the use of blocking, as you can see, is an effective use to control this particular hazard. Rigging components are expensive to buy and to replace. Use them properly and store them properly. Keep wire rope slings lubricated and all rigging stored out of the weather. Treat the rigging as though it were your life depended on it, because if it fails. Don't use makeshift rigging and attempt to repair any rigging components. Knots tied in rigging reduces the strength by 50% or more. Here we will see depicted several job site examples of rigging that must be done. Give us some examples of what you have on your job site, or tell us how you would fix this problem. Rigging safety summary. Only grade 8 or better alloy chain can be used for overhead lifting purposes. All chain is not rated the same. Sling legs shall not be kinked. Slings shall not be loaded in excess of their rated capacity. Additional inspections shall be performed during sling use as often as necessary for safety, and each operation presents its own peculiar problems with no two jobs alike. Keep wire rope slings lubricated and all rigging stored out of the weather. Utilize appropriate rigging gear suitable for overhead lifting. Utilize the rigging gear within the industry standards and the manufacturer's recommendations. A hitch basket is a loading with a sling passed under a load and both ends on the hook or on a single master link. A hitch choker is defined as a loading with a sling passed through one eye and suspended by the other.